This is Unlocked with Daryl L. Davis, and this is my story, which will be narrated by DJ Juice.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on there, Juice?
Hey, man, you ready to get to it?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Let's do it.
Let's get straight to it, man. D-Day.
D-Day, October 15, 1996, South Park, Texas, Houston. At a car wash that me and one of my friends had opened up. We had been opened up maybe about 5 or 6 months at the time. And business was pretty good. And back in those days, everybody was, as they call it, lit, but we were lit in a different kind of way. It was all fun then, you know, we didn't really have to worry about ducking and dodging nobody. Fresh Prince had come out with Summertime, and we was doing our thing, right? And I had seen a young lady come through there, nice looking. She had went to the store. So I told my partner, I said, man, I'm gonna go over to this store and holler at this young lady, I'll be back. So I went over there and introduced myself, and she introduced herself, and we began to rap. Talk. So as we began to hold a conversation, I found out very little about her, and she found out very little about me, which was kind of enticing enough to continue on. So she had told me that she was on her way to work, and that she gets off at a certain time. She had told me where she worked at a carpet store, and her bus would bring her back at between 10 and 10:10 at the bus stop, which was across the street. So this would have to be about maybe 1 in the afternoon. And as I began to go back across the street and contemplated, I couldn't get her out of my mind for some reason, right? So I went home that day and began to relax and chill, and I thought about her. So I said, man, I'm gonna go back up there and meet that young lady. Well, I was living in Southwest Houston at the time, over off of Bissonnet, which I believe maybe about 20-some miles from South Park. But in Houston, jumping on the freeway, you know, that's just a hop, skip, and a jump, as we would say. So it didn't take me long to get to where I needed to be going or coming. So I went back over there, and I guess I might have made it back over there about 5 minutes to 10. And I see the bus pulls up. Of course, I was looking for her to get off the bus, and she did. So when she got off the bus, I was there. And
this reminds me of some Mac Player stuff. So you met this young lady during the day. She said, hey, look, I'm going to work. I get off this time. You know what I'm saying? I know they get home around this time for the bus.
And she said she was single.
So then you was like, all right, well, cool. I'm going to pull up and be leaning on my car. Because that's how I just imagined it in my head. You leaning on the car, bus pull up. She's like, hey, what's going on? So that's some real Mac stuff. So you see this lady, she's enticing, boom. Now what happens when you meet her at the bus stop?
Well, you know, I wasn't just really leaning on my car, but I had my car there. But mindful, she never knew what kind of car I had, right? So
what kind of car did you have?
At that time, I had a 92 Honda Accord. And I also had a 90 Ford Thunderbird. So I had 2 vehicles at that time. But as I said, she never knew the type of car I had. So I was out the car, and it was dark. So when I called her name, immediately she pulled a straight razor out. And I said, whoa. Yeah, straight razor, like one of them barber razors. One cut you out of there, right? And I should have knew then, but I didn't. I said, hey, what's up? She said, She said, I didn't know who you were, right? But in other words, she was prepared to defend herself, right? So I said, well, would you like to go eat? And she said, yeah, that's fine. I said, well, where would you like to go? She said, it don't make no difference. So I said, well, let's go to Denny's. So she said, okay, but I have to go and let my sister know where I'm going. I said, well, cool, get in. So I took her around the corner. Her sister lived around the corner from the detail shop. And her bus came right across the street from the detail shop. So all of it was in the same vicinity right there. So we went over there. She went in, told her sister that she was going to go out to eat with me and she would be back. So we went out to Denny's over by the Astrodome off 610. We came back, I guess maybe by 12:30, 1 o'clock. And I dropped her off and I went back home. Feeling pretty good about the situation. I get up the next day and I take her to work. And I go back and get her from work. And one thing led to another. She began to spend the night after that one night.
After the one night, so was this the first, second, third night which night did she spend the night?
The second night.
Second night.
Because the first night I met her at the bus stop, right?
Yeah.
And I took her out to eat.
Yeah,
right.
And dropped her back off.
Dropped her back off that morning.
So the next night, she's saying she wants to stay the night.
She want to stay the night.
Oh, okay.
And I allowed that, and everything went well. So now she want to stay another night. So as she began to want to stay these nights, the clothes started coming but never leaving. So she began to want to move in, which at that time I really didn't have a problem with it. And we had landline telephones. And I had met a young lady. She said she was a young lady. Her name was a young lady. But honestly, I don't know if she was a man or a woman because I never seen her, right? My intentions was not to ever see her, but she was my phone friend. And when I say phone friend, back then we had to have different lines to set up use of credit. Yeah. And she would help me in the things that I needed to do as an extra phone number for me to use. So I had a couple of friends like that. But this one particular lady that I met, like I said, I never met her personally. It was just always phone conversation, and we would help each other. And it was crazy because when I got ready to pay her, I would always put it in the mail and send it to a post office box because I would pay her for my help. But the young lady I met at the bus stop, she didn't know any of this. Her only thing she knew that another woman was calling my house, right? And once she felt comfortable that she had moved in as my girlfriend, then should no woman have access to what she had access to. And it became unbearable.
Okay, so this is week one.
Week one.
So going into week two.
Week two is when I found out that it wasn't what I expected. It was a little bit more than I had anticipated on dealing with. So I began to ask her, you have to leave. I had a thing about roaming around, not having time to do much. So in Houston, it's a place that whatever you need done, somebody has set up a service. So in my case, I didn't like washing clothes. I come up ironing clothes. I didn't want to iron any clothes anymore. So in Houston, you can go to a washateria that has a cleaners. So they will wash your clothes by the pound. They would dry clean laundry and everything will be ready in a few hours when you get back. So I took advantage of services like that. But when she moved in with me, she wanted the same type of service. Well, in order to have this kind of service, you have to buy this kind of service. As far as your basic needs, I didn't mind supplying whatever it was at the time. And when I met her, she had a job. But when she moved in with me, then she quit her job. To be mindful that she had lived 25 miles per se away from me. And she had lived 10 miles away from where her sister lived to go to work. So in all, that's like, 35 miles? And on a daily basis, with me taking her back and forth to work, that would have been 70 miles a day or more. And I wasn't equipped for that. And she asked me, could she use one of my cars? Which I didn't mind her using one of my cars, but she didn't have any driver's license. So I couldn't have her insured to drive my car. So one day we went to the cleaners. and the laundromat that had the cleaners in it, and she wanted me to get her clothes done so she could go hang out with me at the car wash. No, you have to wash your own clothes. So when I left her there, she goes to the police department, which has a little substation in the what do you call that? Yeah, but it's not a complex, shopping center. In the shopping center, they had a substation. She had went over there and told the police that I had stole my 92 Honda Accord. I didn't know nothing about this at the time. So when I came to pick her up, I guess the police was watching me. And she got in the car, I got my clothes and everything, and they let me drive off. Well, as soon as I got on the street, they pulled behind me and lit me up and pulled me over. And immediately they got aggressive with me, jumped out, get out the car, this car's stolen, and they took me to jail and put me up under a 24-hour auto theft hold. And I didn't know why my car wasn't stolen. And I lived in an apartment complex off of Forum Park, off of Bissonnet. And I lived on the 3rd floor. So when I got arrested and went to jail, I called home to my mother. And I told my mother that if the girl called her, tell her that go to her sister's house and I will make some kind of arrangements to make sure that she's all right over there. So my mother tell me that the girl is in my house. I said, no, she's not in my house because she don't have a key to my house. And my mother said, well, that's the number that pops up on the ID. She said, call her because she's at your house. And I did. My first thing was, how did you get in my house, right? She told me she had left my patio door open and that my neighbor had climbed up the fire escape to let her in. Of course, I'm dealing with being in jail now under auto theft investigation, so I don't have time to really think about exactly what's going on in my house. So the next morning, they called my name to be released. Now, I have to make arrangements to get on a city bus to go way out in another part of Houston, out off of Highway 6 to get my car out the pound. I have to pay to get my car back. Still, I don't know at the time that this is what's happening, right? So another time, I was in the house asleep in my bed, and I was woke up by police with flashlights. Well, this young lady said that I had hit her in the head with a jack. And I went ballistic because I said, man, I'm in my bed asleep. You waking me up. And my attitude is real aggressive. And that comes from having to be locked up in that jungle for nearly 2 decades. And I guess they seen this here and they took me to jail and left her in my house. While they did that, she had access to everything. Both my cars, everything, my money, my car, everything, right? So while I was in there, her and my neighbors went joyriding in my car, and my car quit. And they had to push it back to the house. I didn't know any of this here. I found out all this here later on from my neighbor after I had went to jail for assaulting her allegedly. That he asked me, he said, man, you still in jail behind that stuff with that girl? I said, yeah. He said, man, that girl lied on you. She told us she was going to lie on you. So that guy's name was Derek Henderson. I haven't been able to find him since then. I have been looking for him. I had went back to the apartments. And at that time, I don't think the apartment was in his name. Maybe it was in his girlfriend's name. And I hadn't been able to find them people to come forward with this girl. But nevertheless, I do have other good information as to how she had set me up. Even her mother-in-law said that she was going to set me up.
Okay, so we go there. So at what point did it come to a draw where the charges and ultimately you having to go sit down?
Well, The date in question was November the 20th of 1996. Let's go back to October 15th. From October 15th of 1996 to November the 20th of 1996 was 35 days. That's how long it took me to mess my life off with this young lady. And I'm not saying that it was all her fault. Most of it my fault for not being wise, being foolish in what I was chasing. But we woke up that morning and everything was good, actually. I took her to get her hair fixed over in Sunnyside. And her sister stayed in South Park, which was the next neighborhood over. So when we get to, she go in there, she get her hair done, and it was nice shortcut. And when we got there, we went back to her sister's house and picked her sister up, and we went to the store. So when we took her sister back home, me and her went to Sharpstown Mall. And in Sharpstown Mall, they had a cafeteria in it called Piccadilly's. It's something like a Furs or Luby's or White's. And while we was in Piccadilly's eating, you had like 4 girls over at the table, and they was really noticing and grinning, and I was grinning, and she gets upset because she feel that I was paying those ladies more attention than I was paying her, and she made a statement like, "You just got my hair fixed, and you paying more attention to them than you are me." And she began just to go off and off and off. So I said, well, this is the last straw. I said, when we get back, you got to pack your stuff, and I want you to go. And I had stopped by the store and got an upside-down pineapple cake. It's about a 3-step cake. Open the bag, pour the batter in there, whip it up, put your water in there, whip it up, put your egg in there, put it in there, and just bake it. And it's got a can of pineapples, a little pack of frost to put on there. So I was in there doing that, and she left. And while I was cooking the cake, she was gone 20, 30 minutes or so. And she come back, and she hit the door. And when she hit the door, like knocking on the door, I go to the door, and she had turned around and went sit on the steps. So I unlocked the door and went back to, I didn't open the door, I just unlocked it and went back to doing what I was doing. So when she finally came in, she wanted to come in and she wanted to have sex. So no, it's not happening. So she go in the bedroom and take all her clothes off. And I'm talking about get butt naked, don't have nothing on, and come back and grab me. And so no, that ain't happening. I'm not paying no attention to her. And I said, you have to get your stuff and you have to go. I done told you, you're not staying here another night. So she goes in the bedroom and I hear a loud thump. Boom. So when I go in there, I see that my window, I had a window, my bedroom window was like, it was large, right? But it was a sliding window. When you slide it, it become half open. You got this much space. Out of a big one, it slide. It's a half window now. So she's sitting in this half here. Now this half still glass, but this half open. She done knocked the screen off. That's what the thump was. So she's sitting up in this window on the 3rd floor, butt naked. And I run in there, and she looked behind. I said, what are you doing? And she said, if I can't fly, then I'm gonna die. And at that time, I was fed up, so I said, jump, and I added another word on it, right? So by that time, I heard a holler. So I ran over to the window, and she had jumped out the window, butt naked. So I see her run across the street.
So hold on, she landed?
She landed on her feet.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
We did this.
Huh?
It's not like she did this. So she landed on her feet.
Uh-huh.
So that means it's, because I imagine you said third floor.
3rd floor. So you talking about 30 feet?
Yeah, because I would imagine me, I'm a knee probably gonna be dislocated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking scuffed up, scratches, broken limbs.
Well, she did. She had a fractured pelvis and a broken wrist.
Okay.
She did.
Okay.
Definitely.
So She jumps, she lands. What happened? What do you do at that point?
I go to the window. I don't even close the window. I just go outside, right? So I go outside. I'm looking at all these people out there. My neighbors all out here. And I'm like, man, that woman jumped out that window. I said, you crazy. So I'm looking at her, and the women got a tire cover. Because back then, cars had big spare tires on them. If you had a car with 15-inch tires on there, you had a 15-inch spare, right? And your spare had a cover on it. Now they got the little donuts. So they took the spare cover and they wrapped her up in it. And they called the paramedics. So about this time, I'm hysterical, so I leave and go down to the store, which was on the corner. It couldn't have been no more than about 50, 60 yards from the apartments. So I go down to the store, and I get on the payphone. I call somebody. I don't know if it was my mother or somebody I called on the payphone, but I never finished talking to him because the police were coming. So I went back up there and got in my car, and I just left, right? So when I come back, the police got a card in the door. So I get the card, and I call the police, and I talk to him. And he said that the young lady had accused me of assaulting her. But he said that we since find no evidence of any assault. So I said, okay. He said, you don't have nothing to worry about. I ain't done nothing. So that was kind of a relief. So I packed my stuff up a day or so later, and I come to Tyler.
You moved altogether?
No, I didn't move.
Oh, okay,
I just came back to visit for a day or two. You know, tell my people what was going on with me and stuff. So while I was at home, she called. And she said, but she don't know I'm there. She said that somebody had broken into my house and stole all my stuff. Well, how do you know about my house? You're not supposed to be nowhere around my house, right? Last I heard, you was in the hospital. So I get my stuff together and I go back to Houston. And sure enough, somebody had broken into my house. Come to find out, it was her and my neighbor. My stuff they took to her mother's house and her ex-mother-in-law's house. I found out about all this from her ex-mother-in-law, how she had done her son. She had her son locked up. The thing was, she had 3 kids by her ex-mother-in-law's son. And this was a habit. So I don't know, how did you know? It sounded like she had done something like that before, but I never told you that. But this is her MO, right? Her children's father had done some time behind her as well. And come along, I wind up doing some time behind her. And actually, I'm still doing some time behind her right now because I'm on parole. And that's a heavy cloud to have over one's head.
So, how the indictments, how did it go from you being okay to you actually
being locked up?
Yeah.
Well, when I never responded to her and all the phone calls, she continued to go down to the Harris County District Attorney's office and to pursue aggravated assault charge on me. So on December the 12th of 1996, I had got a phone call one morning from Harris County District Court Coordinator out of the 179th District Court. She told me that I needed to come to court, that I had a pending charge of aggravated assault. I said, what? She said, yeah, come on in, and we're going to reset your case and give you time to hire a lawyer. But you have a charge pending in our court. So I said, all right, lady, I'm on my way down there. So I remembered I was over by the Astrodome. I drove South Main all the way from 610 straight up South Main all the way downtown. I went up in that courtroom on December the 12th of 1996, and I never left out of there. They called my name at the docket call. I raised my hand that I was here. About 5 minutes later, the court coordinator came out with the bailiff, and she was calling my name. Immediately, I was stuck. I couldn't move. I couldn't go nowhere. So that lady said, there he is right there. So he came over and said, stand up, put your hands behind your back. At that time, I hadn't even been indicted of anything. This was on December the 12th of 1996. A little over 2 weeks, just a little over 2 weeks later, on January the 1st of 1997, I get an indictment that said that I threw her over a balcony, exhibited a firearm, and attempted murder. I know when a person is telling a story that has a shady past, people don't believe it. But they have things they call receipts, right, to prove up what you're saying. And by you allowing me to share my story, I felt necessary to bring receipts to prove the allegations of everything that I'm saying. So in my documents, in my paperwork, I have the indictments, both of them. The January 1st indictment of 97, which I don't think no one works on that day. That's New Year's Day. So in order for you to indict me on New Year's Day, it has to be a vendetta against me personally, and only me, right? Because that's not just a typographical error. And at that time, I had a retained lawyer. His name was Daryl. And Daryl was a pretty good lawyer of mine. And I began to talk to him, and actually I was going off on him about that indictment. And he said, man, let me go find out what's going on here. So he went back to the Harris County District Attorney, and they come back and took that indictment and re-indicted me on May the 14th of 1997. This second indictment read nothing like the first indictment. And now I'm discombobulated. How can you charge a person with an offense when you don't even have any true means of how the offense occurred, right? So now I'm being held in jail under 2 indictments, each one carrying a $100,000 bond, charged with the same offense, but multiple ways of committing this offense.
So you have 2 separate indictments, same charges, but the description of how you obtain the charges are completely
totally different.
As well as different from
the police report.
The police report that initially came out on it.
And the charging instrument.
So how is it that you go to jail? So do you have a public defender?
When I went to trial, I did have a public defender. It was called court-appointed lawyers. His name was Donald R. Davis. He was no relation to me. And he was a black lawyer from Louisiana. Donald was a pretty good lawyer.
Okay.
But not for me, right? He was a rap-a-lot lawyer, right? He was down with Jay Prince and them, and he would tell me this, Earl. I don't know if I was sold out to help them boys when they got in trouble or not. I just know Donald didn't do anything for me. In fact, he told me that on several occasions when my trial was going on, he said, man, somebody back there fighting for your sorry ass. I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, they should have put you away a long time ago. I'm like, man, all I ever did was steal hubcap. Where this coming from, right? So that led me to believe that it was a whole vendetta in that courtroom behind me. right? And a few years later, Dawn wound up committing suicide, they said. And they wrote an article in the Houston, not the Post, not the Chronicle, the Houston Press about him. Steve McVickers was the author of that article in that had to be in maybe 2000, I think. I have a copy of the article as well.
So, you get charged, you have 2 indictments, then trial.
My trial was held in September of 1997. They wasn't going to dismiss the charge. I don't think they ever offered me a plea. If they did, I wasn't interested in taking it. But I don't think I was ever offered one. My mother battled to make it to Houston to see me in trial. I had an all-white jury. People think that you pick a jury. The defendants don't pick a jury. The courts pick your jury. So you never know who you have up there. I had 11 whites and one very, very light-skinned black brother. And he is the reason that I got a 37-year sentence. I thank God for that man today. His name was Dwight. I can't think of his last name. Dwight Thomas was his name. He was jury, I want to say number 7 in my jury pool. But he told my mother, after I was convicted and sentenced, that those people wanted to throw your son away for life, but I wouldn't let them. And we fought until we came up with this number here. If you're wondering how we came up with this number.
So, the max on this case
was life.
Life.
Yes.
You got sentenced to
37 years. Remember, I was charged with a 2nd-degree felony, which carry a punishment of 2 to 10, right? However, stealing hubcaps and T-tops, never got caught stealing T-tops, but got caught stealing hubcaps. And at that time, hubcaps was high. A set of Cadillac hubcaps was costing over $1,000, like $1,200 for a set of hubcaps at that time. A set of Buick hubcaps or Chevrolet hubcaps were costing like $800 a set at that time. So you have price values on different offenses. So they caught me one time and I might have had like 20-some sets of Cadillac hubcaps. And they combined the price and charged me with a 3rd-degree felony, theft. Well, at that time they had a penal code article which was 1244B and 1244A. 1244A will allow you to plead guilty to a felony but be punished as a misdemeanor, right? So I had a couple of them, a couple of felony convictions, but misdemeanor punishment, which was illegal for them to use as an enhancement. But they didn't think I knew. But they went on and did it anyway. And they enhanced my 2nd-degree felony to a 1st-degree felony, meaning that I was facing 15 to life. So once my trial begun, the minimum I could receive was 15 years.
So this happens. What's the first thing that goes through your mind when the verdict is read?
Wow, man, it took the wind out of me. I look back at my mother. She was in tears. I didn't begin to cry at that moment. I was mad. I was angry. I didn't know how people could sit there and hear the testimony that they heard and still come back and find me guilty. Remember, I didn't have a witness to testify on my behalf. I didn't know anyone, except for my neighbor that I seen in jail. I told my lawyer about my neighbor. His name was Daryl Henderson. He pretended as if he was gonna go and try to find Daryl, but he never did. I had one preacher that I was dialoguing with while I was in there as a spiritual advisor. His name was Scotty Golden. And Scotty was a genuine man, a good brother. He allowed my mother to come to Houston to stay with him and his wife during my trial. I'm forever grateful to Scotty. And I shared an incident with him where I had got into an altercation with another inmate in Harris County Jail. And when he got on the stand, they ambushed him and asked him, did Mr. Davis ever have any problems while he was in jail? He said, well, he told me about he had a fight with someone while he was in jail. They wasn't even supposed to ask that man now because I had clergy privacy. They can't ask the preacher nothing. Clergy privacy is that if you're a person of the cloth, you don't have to give information up about nobody that has confided in you, right? It's something like if you're a pope, if you tell a pope something, they're not obligated to share whatever you told. And up on the clergy, that same principle applies, right? But Scotty didn't know that. My lawyer never even briefed him on what he could testify to or right to testify. Donald just didn't care. He wanted to get the case over with. He wanted me to go to prison. So with that, I had a police officer testify for the state. I have a detective that testify for the state. I have a paramedic that testified for the state. I never had a medical expert testify for the state, nor for me. I never had the alleged victim's medical treating physician to come testify for the state or on my behalf. There was never any pictures of her injuries. There was never even any videos of her injuries. Now, if a person assaults someone and the police come and the police sees injuries, what do you think the first thing the police gonna do?
Is that the question?
The question. If an assault occurred and a person calls the police, male or female, and once the police get there, the first thing the police gonna do is what? After the questions.
They're going to detain the person who?
Once the police come there and they see that someone has been assaulted, and they find that the assault did occur and they see injuries, they're going to take pictures. They're going to go to their car and they're going to get their cameras. And especially if this lady's butt naked, they want every picture of her body. Not because she's naked, because they're looking for signs of injury, right? And Officer James C. Nicola stated in his testimony that him and his supervisor determined that since the woman hadn't been cut with either the knife or the bottle that she said she was struck with, and she didn't have any cuts or lacerations on them, that they felt that they didn't need me for anything. And the detective, Michael Wabanez, he said he did the overall investigation of the case. And he didn't find nothing consistent with what might have occurred in an assault. So, with that said, I began to take a deep breath and relax. Now, mind me, this is what the police said. The paramedic said that he didn't see no broken abrasions on her. Only thing he saw was she was dirty from falling in the dirt. Now it's time for her testimony. She get up there and she says that I brutally beat her 32 to 38 times with a full 40-ounce bottle of beer and my fist. And at no time did she ever have any cut, marks, or scars about her. I can read my trial transcripts to you, and is willing to do so. Of the officer testimony, the detective testimony, and the victim's testimony. Right here, I have volume 4 of 9. I've been packing these around since 1997. And it's 9 volumes of this here. This is just a little stack of the guilt-innocent phase. Let's go to page 42. We'll go to page 42. This is page 42. "42 says here, when they ask the question, we'll back up to 43. Question from the prosecutor. So how did you calculate that into trying to decide was to basically knock the door down or get in some other way? Answer from police officer James C. Nicola. Well, we determined that it didn't appear that the woman had been cut with either the knife or the bottle that she said she had been struck with. So we decided that it was apparent she hadn't received any lacerations or anything like that we didn't, and that the suspect was gone. There was nothing else in the apartment that we really felt we needed at the time we needed. So they wouldn't even go into the apartment where this alleged assault was to have occurred, because as you can clearly hear, that the police officer said that she didn't have any cuts, marks, or lacerations. And this was after telling him that she was struck one time and cut, right? So let's go on to the detective. That should be around 150 something. Let me see. Here we go right here. It reads like this right here. Question, this is coming from the prosecutor. It says, did you think at this point you were familiar with the details of what happened in the apartment, right? Answer, yes, sir. Questions. Did you think to look for any evidence of what happened? For instance, a ball or knife? Answer, yes, sir. Question. Did you find any of that stuff? Answer, I didn't find anything consistent with what might have occurred in an assault. Question. Did you find anything inconsistent? Answer, yes. Question, what? a bunch of junk. What appeared to be junk. Why is that inconsistent with what happened? I want to make sure we understand. Did you find any evidence of a crime? Did you find a bottle? 40-ounce bottle of beer, yes or no? No. Did you find a knife? No. Did you find any other dishes like anybody had been living there? Yes. Were there knives among those dishes? I don't recall. I remember dishes with old cooked food in them. My thing is that he was familiar with what he was looking for. He was familiar with what he was going in that house for. He is a seasoned detective. He didn't find nothing that this lady had said that I had done to him. Right? This is a detective. Now let me back up to her testimony and what she said and what she testified to. Okay. And this is and I'm not trying to make her look bad on this, girl, but I should be. A question. It said, and you claim it was because you had discovered that he was possibly using drugs. Is why he got upset with you. Is that correct? That's what you told the police. Yes. Answer. Yes, that's right. Question. Okay. But did you tell the police you were using drugs? Answer. No. Question. You told the police that it really upset you to discover that Mr. Davis might be using drugs. Is that correct? Answer. No. I told her it was upsetting, but it wasn't shocking. Question. Didn't you tell the police it upset you to discover that Mr. Davis was possibly using drugs? Answer. Yes. Question. Okay. But you used drugs. Did it upset you that you used drugs? Answer. Yes. Question. It did upset you. Answer. I mean that in my past, I don't do that. Question. We're talking about November of 1996. It was not in your past. That was your present. In November of 1996, you were using drugs. Is that correct? Answer. I wasn't using drugs. I would. Question. Is marijuana a drug, ma'am? Answer. Yes, it is. Question. And were you smoking marijuana? Answer. But I did not use that day. Question. Were you smoking marijuana in November of 1996? Answer. No. Question. No. So when your toxicology comes back positive for marijuana in your system, that was a mistake? Answer. It was a month before. I know I didn't do any. I didn't smoke any marijuana off in the month of November. So you converted sometime in November to being a good person. Is that correct? Then you get the objections from the judge and the court. And the judge sustained them. So the lawyer asked, so you converted and you just swore off drugs of November 96. Is that correct? Answer. I was trying to leave it all alone. Question. But it still was in your system in November 20th of 1996. Answer. Yes. Question. Is that correct? Question. Once you were in the apartment, you said that Mr. Davis picked up a 40-ounce beer bottle that was still full of beer. Is that correct? Answer. Yes. And he took that beer bottle full of beer and began to beat you about your face and head. Is that correct? Answer. Yes. Question. Tell the jury how many times Mr. Davis hit you with that full 40-ounce beer bottle standing over you in your face and in your head. How many times did he hit you? Answer. numerous of times. Question, more than 10? Answer, more than 10. Question, more than 20? Answer, might be 20. Question, okay, so approximately, not exactly, but approximately. Answer, approximately 15 to 16. The court, we both can't talk at the same time. You let him finish his question and you let her finish her answer. Yes, sir. Question, approximately 15 to 20 times, Mr. Davis took a full 40-ounce beer bottle and hit you about your face and head. Is that correct? Yes. Answer, yes. Question, also he took his fist and hit you approximately how many times about your face and head with his fist? Answer, I would say about 17, 18 times. Okay. Question, okay. So 17, 18 times he took his fist and hit you with it. Is that correct? Answer, yes. Question, did he hit you with any other objects about your face or head other than those two things that you mentioned? Answer, that's all I can recall. Question, he hit you approximately, according to your testimony, 32 to 38 times with a full 40-ounce beer bottle and his fist, but at no time did he ever cut your skin about your face or your head. Is that correct? Answer, no. Question, he did not. Is that correct? Answer, no. Okay. Question, okay. At no time did he burst the skin around your lip. Is that correct? You were never bleeding from your lip. Answer, no. Question, you were never bleeding from your nose. Answer, no. Your eyes did not close. You didn't have black eyes. Is that correct? Answer, around this area. Question, your eyes. You didn't have black eyes. Is that correct? Either that day or the next day. Your eyes did not close. Answer, the next day my eyes was it was swollen, but it wasn't closed. Question, you're pointing to above your brow, my brow. Question, above your eyebrow, but your eyes were never closed. Is that correct? No, it wasn't. Question, your scalp, the skin around your scalp was never cut. Is that correct? Answer, no. Question, oh, and that's despite being hit 32 to 38 times with that beer bottle and his fist. Is that your testimony? Is that correct? Answer, yes. Okay, at some point you said that he picked up a knife. Is that correct? Yes. Now I believe your testimony is he had the knife in his hand, but he never did anything toward you with the knife. Is that correct? Yes. Question, so he had the knife in his hand, but he never threatened you with it or pointed it towards you or told you he was going to do anything with the knife. Is that correct? Answer, no. He just had it to scare me. Question, he just had it in his hand. Did he do anything? I'm trying to figure out, did he do anything with the knife other than have it in his hand? Answer, no. He didn't do anything with the knife. And the jury came back and found me guilty and gave me 37 years in that concrete jungle for a lie that they knew was a lie.